The laboratory is a workplace that has many potential hazards. Dangerous conditions that occurs can be caused by chemical solutions, explosions of chemical reactions, and also can be caused by the misuse of laboratory equipment. Chemical explosion due to explosive reactions of reactive materials, hazardous chemicals poisoning, skin irritation, respiratory tract disorders due to direct contact with corrosive materials, and skin ice injury that caused by broken laboratory glassware. Therefore, personal protective equipment are very important to use in maintaining security and safety from laboratory activities to avoid and minimize the risk of dangers due to workplace accidents. These personal protective equipment are including lab coats, masks, gloves, safety goggles, and safety shoes. Laboratory coat is used to protect the body against hazardous chemicals. When skin is exposed to a chemical spill, flush immediately using an emergency shower and wash the body with water for 15 minutes. Masks are used to protect the respiratory tract from the vapors of chemicals, smoke, toxic gases, and the dangers of microorganisms, especially infectious ones. Gloves are used to protect hands from chemicals that can irritate the skin and to avoid direct skin contamination. Safety goggles are used to protect the eyes from hazardous vapors, gases, and chemical spark. If the eyes are already exposed to liquid chemicals, immediately rinse the eyes at an emergency eye wash for 15 minutes. Safety shoes are used to protect the feet from the danger risks of stepping on sharp objects, hitting on hard objects, and to protect from being exposed by hazardous chemical spill. Following are ways of safety and security handling in using laboratory glassware. For safety and quality, use laboratory glass equipment with good quality and in a good condition. Always obey available procedures or usage guidelines. When pouring chemical solution, avoid using beaker that spills easily or flow easily to the edge of the glass. Write the name of the solution in the provided beaker space to avoid mixing with other solution. When perform a titration, use a burette that has a high level of accuracy to make a better quality of titration. Do not use a lab glass that is already scratched or cracked because it'll break easily. Do not use a stirring rod with sharp edge when stirring the solution in a glass to avoid scratches on the glass. Use a stirrer with smooth ends to avoid scratches. Since the glass neck is fragile when being used as a handle, hold the bottom and glass side when holding a lab glass, such as a beaker, bottle, and flask. When reading a volumetric glass, meniscus must be in vertical position and at eye level to avoid parallax errors. To avoid damage when clamping the glass, use coated clamp to prevent contact in between glass and metal, and do not use excessive power to tighten the clamp. Do not pull any liquid into the pipette by mouth. Always use specially designed pipette fillers. Do not put hot temperature glass on top of a cold and wet surface or put a cold temperature glass on top of a hot surface. It will cause glass breakage due to extreme temperature changes. If the lab glass falls and breaks, never pick up fragments of glass slab with fingers. Use a cleaning tool instead to avoid hand injury risk that caused by sharp glass fragments. Do heat vessels gently and gradually to avoid breakage by thermal shock. Glass with thick walls, like volumetric glass, bottles and jars, should not be heated on directly on the fire. Must use zinc-plated iron. Avoid lifting by hand. Use a tool to lift a hot lab glass. Wash the laboratory glass as soon as possible after use with phosphate-free detergent to avoid residue in the lab glass, and use a brush with fine hair to avoid scratches. Make sure all volumetric glass are kept in clean and oil-free area because it may affect the meniscus that will lead to the accuracy result. Volumetric glass can be washed in an automatic washing machine and will not affect in accuracy. Keep the lab glass in a dust-free place or storage cabinet that is free of dust. Replace lab glass products if the glass is opaque, has a lot of scratches and crust to avoid the risk of breaks easily and inaccurate volume. Use complete personal protective equipment for autoclave usage and wear heat-resistant gloves. Autoclave utilizes steam, heat, and pressure, therefore it has many potential of hazards. Do not open the autoclave door carelessly. Open the autoclave door if the pressure gauge shows 0 on the temperature and pressure gauge, then open carefully. After opening the autoclave, leave it for 5 minutes before holding it to avoid the possibility of boils over or burns. Do not place sealed glass inside autoclave because it will cause an explosive reaction. The lid must be slightly loose so that the pressure that is created during the process will not make the glass broken. For a glass with screw cap, first close the lid, then loosen the lid by 1/2 turn. If the liquid filled in the glass is too full, the liquid will spray when it's boiled. Therefore, always leave a few inches of empty space in the glass. The liquid that will be autoclaved must be in a glass that is at least twice as large as the volume that will be autoclaved. If you autoclave for 500 milliliters of media, you should put it in a glass that holds at least 1 liter. Do not autoclave on items containing solvents of volatile or corrosive chemicals and any radioactive material. Some rules that must be considered to maintain security and safety from risks that can be dangerous, such as wash hands before and after doing activities in the laboratory. Do not eat and drink in the laboratory to avoid contamination with hazardous materials or substances. Make sure the hair is tied neatly or wear a head cover when conduct activities in the laboratory to avoid contamination or chemicals exposure. Turn off all electricity power after completing activities in the laboratory. Ensure that safety procedures and personal protective equipment are being used as good as possible to avoid and minimize the potential of dangerous risks in laboratory activities. Always prioritize work safety for yourself and the people around you.